Hola community, it's Pablo Vazquez here from another episode of Blender Today with more news. I just didn't know how to call this show today because Eevee got a new depth of field. Yeah, that's huge, but Geometry Nodes also got a bunch of improvements that are going to play your mind. Can you affect the position, or can you transform the UVs with nodes? What? Cycles also got better. The sequencer got faster. Like how difficult are you guys making me to name shows nowadays? The shows should have multiple names depending on where are you watching. Anyway, that was just a little spoiler of what's gonna be here today on Blender Today. So without further ado, let's jump into what's happening in the forums. Blender.community is the site where we're gonna be answering the questions that you ask here in the show. The new Eevee DOF depth of field is unreal by Momotron. Go there and ask questions. So let's just get started. Okay, wait. Got a few announcements to make. So according to long story short, Blender 2.93 is not going to be available. It's not going to support Windows 7 or 8.0. So it's only going to support from 8.1 and forwards. According to the stats, it's not a ton of people. I still like 250,000 people that downloaded 2.91 that are on Windows 7 apparently, according to the stats. So it is a lot of people, but it's like less than 5% according to all the downloads that Blender is getting nowadays. This comes because of library updates. Libraries need to be kept up to date. They Python 3.9, the latest version that Blender is using at the moment, is not supported anymore on those release on Windows 7. But I mean, if you search for Windows 7 end of life, it's not that Blender is ending the life of Windows 7. Microsoft ended the life of it over a year ago. So 13 months ago, that Windows 7 is not getting any more like updates anymore. So no security updates, no nothing. So yeah, if you're using Windows 7, I mean, just by using Windows, you're already exposed to a lot of crappy people doing crappy stuff. If you're using a Windows operating system that is not getting security updates, then you are more in trouble. So please update. 8.1 is the one that Blender supports from now on and forwards, but Windows 8, I think it didn't get. I think Windows 8, I don't use Windows, but Windows 8 was like the Vista of our generation, and 7 was the XP or so. Our generation. I use XP actually. And then I had a laptop with Vista. I hated it, and that's when I switched to Linux. So thank you, Vista, for making my life better. Blender runs great on Windows 10 though, and 8.1. So I think Windows 10 nowadays, it's after so many upgrades, I think it's in a good shape to move forward. So yeah, that not only Python moved to 3.9.1, but all the other libraries that depend on it, like NumPy, now it's in 19.5, Python requests, all the internal ones that come with Python, but also there is new OpenColorIO version. I think it's 2.0 now. OpenEXR. There is so many updates in the libraries that Blender benefits from. You know, Blender, like every software out there, pretty much uses external libraries. So it's not like they code every single feature. They use libraries. So Blender doesn't create videos by itself, or it doesn't encode a video. Blender uses FFmpeg, which is a library that encodes the videos. The same for physics. It's not like Blender has this built-in physics using Bullet for some, and that happens everywhere in software development. So yeah, moving forward, but actually not so much forward, because you know what, in next week Blender 2.92 is gonna come out, and there are improvements that keep coming in 2.92. and I know we talk about 2.93 here, all the goodies, but it's good to mention that there are a few things that still keep changing here for the better. This one, for example, it's a change for cycles. Cycles, in the past, it was possible to have AOBs, like the AOB passes, multiple with the same name, which was not great. It was just calling for trouble. So now Cycles is using Blender settings for AOB, which are the same that Eevee uses and other render engines can use as well. So in this case, it means that AOBs are going to have unique names. Then what else? Oh, in 2.92, the release that is coming next week, final release, it's gonna be if you were having a performance issue in mesh editing, or more performance issues in mesh editing, for example, once you added vertex groups, which is pretty much all the time, it was slow on mesh editing, so that has been fixed. So yay for mesh editing performance improvements. So let's see next. And I think that's all for the announcements that I had to make. Now let's switch into the section of Blender 2.93 upcoming features. Let's start with a bang. Let's show the depth of field. Yes, show the DOF. Leave it string is mentioned here. I'm following the chat, by the way, as much as I can. But yeah, I try to. And the first, it's Eevee depth of field. So there is a new implementation. I showed a sneak peek in the past, and it just looks amazing. You've probably seen the thumbnail of this video by Daniel Bystedt with this new depth of field, and it's just insane, just crazy. It's a new option. It's called high quality. So it's you can also use the previous one if this is maybe too heavy for your computer, and then you want to switch to the other one. But look at the way it interacts with the here. Oh, I don't have a shortcut to show the zoom, but let's zoom in. Look at the way it interacts with the foreground, background elements. Isn't that exquisite? What a way to use a word. Render. Exquisite. Look. Isn't that the softerest? Not even Blender internal had so soft. Not even cycles. Yeah, but not so much noise free. It's just beautiful. Just beautiful. If I could marry a depth of field. There are a few issues that are mentioned here. It's not all just great. There are a few things. You know, there are implementations here. You can read the paper on what it is based on. Clément, the developer that implemented this, he chose Unreal's diaphragm depth of field as a reference, or as a goal implementation. You know, having Unreal Engine as a goal, I think that's all a great thing. It is well described in the presentation A Life of a Bokeh by Guillaume Abadi. You can see here, actually they have the whole presentation is available. You can see it, and you can see what their goal was in SIGGRAPH 2018, so 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. So you can see how they were dealing with it, and the developer Clément looked at it as a reference and inspiration, and then implemented it in Eevee. There is a few difference with the original implementation, and there are a few issues that you can check here. The slight defocus, stability, and the foreground occlusion approximation is a bit glitchy. So there are a few things here and there. This one got fixed, so nice to see. But yeah, check out the settings, check out the commits. I'm gonna add these links to the description actually now. I am the way I'm collecting all the changes in Blender, I'm doing it in a way that I can paste it on the description of this video, and you can all find it. So that will be pretty neat. It's not now, but I should put it after the live. Next, into what do we show? We show we stay in the render engines side of things of Blender. Let's talk about cycles. Cycles. It's getting improved in the subsurface scattering side of things. say goodbye to the noise, to the nice noise, not so nice noise. The implementation is implement the Eevee guiding path for path trace subsurface scattering. In other words, great scattering, path traced, but not so slow, not so noisy. So you have less noise at the same same rendering time. So here's the equal time render comparison. All 25 seconds, 27 seconds. All of them took 27 seconds. But here, the first path trace SSS without guiding and with guiding. So 80 samples. I don't know if, I don't know. I think YouTube is gonna kill the compression here, but there's a lot of noise going on, and you can see, I don't know if you can tell, previous, now, previous, now. So in the previous one, in this one, there is a maybe I can go full here, bam. You must see this, yeah, I think you see the noise in here. And then if I go to the other picture, then much less noisy. So noise, no noise, same render time, all 27 seconds, both of them, but just awesome. Yeah, it's just like noise, no noise, same render time. Give me more of that, please. You can read about the whole implementation here. It's in the task D9932 on developer.blender.org, or you can check the link that I will paste later, or maybe you can just paste it now. But then it's gonna be a spoiler of what I'm gonna show. So let's continue. That is all for cycles. Let's move into like have so many sections today. I have grease pencil improvements. I have Blender video sequence editor. I have user interface and geometry nodes. It's just been too epic at the moment. Well, everything is epic now. Okay, let's go into Blender video sequence editor. Dun, dun, dun. Mario pipe change, switch to the video sequence editor. You know what? You know what happened in the video sequence editor? It's faster now. It is much faster because it deals better with multi-threading. So the more cores you have, the more improvements you should see. The changes are two. One of them is done by Sergey Sharivin, improved multi-threading settings. So actually you can also download the file itself that it was here to use as a reference. And in here, rendering, so the improvement is for everything that has to do with encoding and decoding of files. In these improvements, in this example, it went from 190 seconds to 160 seconds. So a whole 30 seconds faster on this. That's actually pretty exciting, because it also, again, is for free. And the more it depends on the system, on your system. I don't know if, I think Sergey doesn't mention here what is his system, but yeah, it's part of the Blender video sequence editor 2.0. Remember, the goal at first is to do performance, not get lost in adding new features, but just improving performance, make it faster, make it fun to use, not wait for, you know, beach balls. The other improvement was done by Peter Fogg, also known as Tint14. Implemented following the Sergey's improvements. He added this also for proxies. So in this case, a proxy of 60 seconds, it went down to 35 seconds. So around half, almost half. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? So the files that were used here were the ones from Daily Dweebs, which are really heavy files like EXRs. So that is actually super nice. Super nice. Again, depends on your amount of cores you have on your computer. So it might vary. Maybe you get more. You have a massive Threadripper at home, or you may get less. But overall, huge improvements for proxies around half the time. And then for the rest, again, really nice. bonus. Isn't that great? So Leo is asking, can I try the new depth of field if I downloaded 2.93? Yes, you can. Go to builder.blender.org and download it. Download it now. It's in alpha, by the way. Alrighty. Again, cycles, improvement. Cycles is faster for SSS, or like overall. Blender Video Sequencer is faster. Eevee got a massive depth of field upgrade. Now let's try to slow down a bit and show some user interface side of things, or also user experience. It's a mix of them. User interface is one side of the user experience, and there are improvements that are related to the Keymap, for example, that don't necessarily talk about the user interface. And except the one that I will start this section with is an improvement on the user interface for much more readable alerts. If you remember the alerts in the past, there is a fix. Somebody reported the fix, a report that it basically looked like this. So very readable, not because it's in Cyrillic and I don't know any word of it, but because it's white, it's yellow on gray. This is just impossible to read. So Harley looked into it and he implemented a new way of showing it. Basically, it's just that you don't have to do anything and it will look like this. So the color is used more on the actual icon, so behind the icon, so you can still see at a glance when it's a error, warning, success, or a info message, but the message itself is still very, the background is dim enough so you can read what's going on. Much better, not so much in your eyes, in your face. Well, it's readable now. You know what else is readable now in Blender? I don't know if you noticed, if you downloaded Blender recently, you may have noticed in the outliner that there is an old friend showing up. Do you recognize the old friend in the outliner? Yay, the render icon. It's back. It's back. It was removed a few versions ago because there were many reasons. There didn't in a attempt to simplify this layout and also make it more minimal. It was removed, but over time, with the new, especially now that we have the new design for, like, you can select multiple of the shortcuts, the colors, and the colors in the hierarchy. The community, everybody in the community agreed that it was better to have them back, and they are back. These render icons now, they are also, when you have to explain someone for the first time that it's using Blender, it's like, yeah, if you hide something, hide the cube, and then you render, it's still gonna show up. Why? Because of this render. And also this makes it better when you are like trying to explain or trying to see, trying to make a connection between the render icon for the viewport and the render icon for the modifiers, for example, or for the physics, or for pretty much anything that uses the same connection. Alrighty, it was hidden by default. Yes, it was hidden by default, but only for a couple releases, or maybe more. But yeah, and it's good to go back to changes. You know, there's nothing wrong with admitting it was maybe not the best solution to claim some space in the outliner, but it's good to go back and listen to the community's feedback. This was actually agreed a long time ago, but there was a discussion going on about, okay, but first let's try to fix this issue that you have this column, this new column, and when you reach this icon over here, then you can't read anything underneath. You see the cube, the name is hidden. So the idea was to fix that first and then add back this. But yeah, you know, it's just, why waiting to fix that? Just bring this back, and then maybe that will motivate more developers or the community to look into why this is happening and maybe make it transparent. You know, it shouldn't crop the whole name there. So yeah, if you're a developer and you want to look into this kind of stuff, you're more than welcome to do so. Another improvement, speaking of the community contributing changes for everybody and making Blender awesomer every day. This name you've heard a few times, Juan Fran Mateo. He does 1 million patches a day or more, and they are all like mainly requests that the community is making, or like in right click select, so that is awesome. This one, it's gonna speed up your workflow so much because this adds an option called confirm on release to the operator called this WM is window manager operator radial control. So anything that uses the radial control, such as maybe the F key when you're changing the size of a brush, you know, radial control, or the strength, the radius of stuff, that operator now has an option called confirm on release, which when it's turned on, you don't have to click to accept. So for example, if you're sculpting and you press F, you see you have to click to accept, like F and then click to accept, F, click to accept. So in this mode, I haven't tested it now, but radial control, let's see in sculpt mode, so the F key, now it has a confirm on release. So if I turn that on to the F key, I should be able to do F, whoop, you see? Look, man, no hands. Well, you can see that I'm not pressing enter, but you can see that it's much faster to go. So yeah, this is not on by default though. You have to go and change it on your Keymap, because yeah, it needs to be tested, and there is nowhere else in Blender that works this way. So it's not a great change to do for like 2.93, because it's a workflow breaking change. So if you guys and girls, everybody in the community, if you think it's a good change to have it on by default, that again, once you release the key, the F key for example, the change is done, so you don't have to click to accept. If you like that, leave a comment below and show some appreciation for this feature. No, not here, not in the tokens, because you know, every time people give hearts to developers, then you go to see what the developer is doing, and then you only see heart, and then it's hard to see what the person is doing. So yeah, the best way is to leave a comment here, you know, and maybe people can give it a heart or something to see if most people like it, because it will be a good candidate for Blender 3, for example. If people like it, maybe it should be on by default, but only for Blender 3, when we are allowed to make those memory muscle breaking changes in, you know, in favor of faster workflows. But yeah, it should wait for it. Another improvement in the Keymap, since we're talking about Keymaps, it's that the shift key was hard-coded for being more precise. You know, when you move something with like G and then you press shift to make it more precise, this is called precision mode. And this precision mode was hard-coded to shift, to the shift key. Not anymore. Now it's an option and you can change it to whatever you want. It's left shift or right shift by default, and then you can set it to whatever you want. Super neat. It's called precision, and it's available on the Keymap. So many changes to the Keymap. All right. Yeah, we are reaching the point where I can go and make things epic again, like bring the noise. Yeah, let's do it with the grease pencil, and then we're gonna talk about geometry nodes. So grease pencil meshes off. Okay, wait, I missed the Mario pipe. So grease pencil enters the room with epic changes that are gonna make your life so much easy. You're gonna gain hours of life with this change. The fill tool now works on multi-frame, so you can fill across all the selected keyframes that you have. You don't have to go each frame and do fill. Now it works everywhere. And you know what? The Grease Pencil team, not only they make the features, but they also make videos for me to upload to YouTube. And look, oh, I don't have the, yeah, Blender developers. Here, Grease Pencil improvements. It was uploaded a couple hours ago. The Grease Pencil team had to remake this a few times because we changed a few things, so sorry guys, but they are just amazing. So not only that, but the fill tool that used to be limited to the viewport, it was cropped by the viewport. You have to like zoom out and then make it work. Not anymore. Now it works even if the content doesn't fit in the viewport. That is great. So let me kill some spam in the chat. There's a new precision mode that allows you to work around these issues, like when it doesn't fill all the like in sharp corners. Now you can specify a higher precision, and then you would you have to only click once and it will be solved. Then duplicate empty keyframes. I already mentioned this. Then the option which I mentioned in the past, this is just magic. So sometimes when you're using the fill tool, that there's some like if you have like some small gap or like the smallest gap in the strokes, the fill tool will fail. You know, it would just try to fill the entire planet because it just had like one tiny gap in the stroke. Not anymore. Now there is the option called stroke extension, which makes some kind of ghost lines. You can see here in blue, marked in blue, that there's some like temporary ghost lines in a way that fill those gaps, and the fill tool now works just great. So yeah, magic. That plus what I just mentioned, that you can paint across multiple frames. All the selected keyframes that you have in the outliner, it's just magic. Just magic. Thank you, Grease Pencil team. You are awesome. Go give some love to this video. I'm gonna share the link here in the chat. Go give it some likes. It makes the team happier. Next improvements. Oh, I didn't mention it was in the video, but it was this is a smaller change, but it's easier in to the eye. You know, some keyframes in Grease Pencil keyframes last as long as until there is a new change. That wasn't represented before in the outliner. It had this kind of drawing where you couldn't see which keyframe you are in, but now you are. Now you can, because it's using this kind of drawing. Like the selected keyframes are in orange, so if you are in a keyframe and you are here, you can see how long the keyframe is going to be drawn, and for how long, which one you are editing, pretty much. So another great quality of life improvement by the Grease Pencil team. Alrighty. Oh, wow, again with that word. Let's switch in the geometry nodes. You know what? Every week I feel like I introduce a new developer from the community that just uses his own or her own spare time, their own free time, to contribute code and nodes and fixes and improvements to the Geometry Nodes project. I feel like it's one of the projects with the most contributions by the community in the shortest amount of time. Look at this one. The developer, Vazquez Malphite, or also called Vazquez, added 2 new nodes: combine and separate XYZ. It's similar to how the other the for color or vectors work, but this is for attributes, which makes it easier to swap between attributes and vectors, for example. And also, if you have a whole attribute workflow, it feels better. And also, you can switch between. You can have type X to be one type, and then another type, the type Y. So this November is gonna be crazy. You know what else is crazy? It's when after what, 20 years? No, 15, 16, 8 gazillion years. There is somebody knocking. I don't know if somebody was knocking. I'm alone at home. I hope nobody comes. If something happens, ask, tell Francesco. Tell the community I love them. All my blend files are up for grabs. Anyway, you know what? After like Blender got the compositor, which was the first node editor type in 2.40 in 2005. So 16 years after the addition of the node editor, Blender always had these round shaped sockets. Always. There are diamond shaped, there are other ones, but no, Blender doesn't use them yet. It's some nodes can use them, but nothing else. Somebody's knocking, right? I can hear. Too late anyway. The change is, so sorry, I got distracted by the knocking. The change is now that the shape of the socket changed. Now it allows to connect multiple sockets at the same time, and it looks awesome. Look at this. I know it looks weird, but it only looks weird because he has this many entries. So by default, it's going to look like this. So it's twice as large as as tall as a regular socket, but the moment you connect a clink and an input, or more than one input, it will start growing. Clunk, 2 is fine, 3, you see, clunk, and then clunk. It doesn't do that clunk sound, but it's just awesome, and it just works great because you can plug, like cut it and plug it, and then just take it like, okay, here, just awesome. It's just great. It looks a bit funny when you have it collapse. It looks like they all come here in the same place, and if you can click grab to see which one is in orange. You can see, and then you know which one is it's gonna be affected. So there is like an offset here. I can choose like, okay, maybe this one I want to pull out, but in that case it's just better to come here. It's great. So this is a kind of it's time to switch officially. For what? For this? Oh, I thought you meant the switch node. Well, switch node is different. Switch node it relies on the position, on the order, and this doesn't rely on order. You just shovel all sockets in. So whatever supports multiple sockets, just shovel it in, and it just works. Doesn't care about the order. When it's muted though, it's gonna pick, I think, the one in the center. So that is a bit weird. That needs to be fixed. But overall, super interesting to have this shaped after 16 years. Awesome. So this was that change was done by Fabian, another developer from the community. Besides Wans, besides Miro, besides Victor, so many. Fabian did it here. What else? The developers from the geometry nodes also work on other changes, maybe more broad changes, maybe more like hardcore attribute deep, like Blender core stuff. The change by hands makes it so the attribute randomize node can also have operations, so like blending. So you can now have addition, subtraction, multiply, or replace, create in the attribute randomize node. So you can read more about it here, but so far it's only these few options. So like instead of replace create, you can have add, subtract, and multiply. More can be added, but even just to keep the node simple for the time being, I think this should be more than enough, according to what Hans says. And also you can add a math node later. You can build a chain of changes. So for this, so far so good. Okay, now the next change is where the mind-blowing moment begins. So prepare your mind to be blown. Grab a mop, so you have to clean after. Here, so this little change maybe doesn't say much. Geometry nodes allow attributes to use different domains. What does it mean? Currently, every attribute node assumes that the attribute exists on the points domain. Points domains can be like points, vertices, corners, faces. No, vertices, no, points is points. But corners, for example, like UV data, or faces, or you name it. Those are domains. So now attributes can use different domains. What does it mean? Well, let me show you a video of by using this implementation that Shaq Luke made. And this is just crazy. So initial attribute interpolation between domains. Doesn't say much if you don't understand of the topic, like me. But look at this video. Leave everything that you're doing and watch here. We have a attribute vector math node and a UV window, Y, and then a edit mode. Moving the moving the UV, it's moving the points in the viewport. Yes. Look at what is happening here. The attribute vector math is adding as type A the position of the points, so the vertices, and it's also mixing it with the UV map, which is also an attribute. Remember, UV maps are just attributes of the mesh. So as a result, it's changing the position of the points. So it means that it's adding one position with the UV map, and it's giving you this result. If you use a bit of your imagination, you can imagine already the exciting November that we're gonna have this year. And just wait, because it's gonna be the next week. I think we're gonna get something more on the terms of mixing geometry nodes with shading nodes, and that's when things gonna go loose. World that's just gonna be more blown. But hey, this is mind-blowing. I never thought of, well, it's also happens the other way around. In this demo it's not happening, but if you move it, if you move in the right, it would also move the vector, the UV mapping on the side. So this is just gonna be crazy. Like the texture world expands so much, and it's much more visible. It's just amazing. You know what else is amazing? When not only we get new features, but also we get performance improvements. And this one, it's you're gonna not see any difference pretty much with this change. It's called Make Instances Real on Demand. It's gonna be better performance, but also when you use like transforms and the access of objects, it's gonna be much more predictable. So yeah, performance improvements mainly. All of these changes were done thanks to a refactor, and I mentioned this refactor even though it's very internal access architecture stuff. It's part of a larger task that it's getting a lot of love. So you can see literally a lot of hearts, because it's about exposing more reserved name custom data as attributes, such as normals, custom normals, creases, bevel weights, vertex colors, which is already happening, and UV mappings too. But yeah, bevel weight exposes an attribute, so you can use that as whatever you want to maybe use in cycles or in geometry nodes. Custom normals, creases. This is just the tip of the iceberg, isn't that? It's just mind blowing. If you have you seen in how is it going in Twitter, the geometry nodes? Geometry nodes. If you look at somebody made a ton in geometry nodes. That's so cool with the pictures. But yeah, if you look at the latest hashtags, it's just people are doing really crazy stuff that maybe not even supposed to. but yeah, Blender Sushi made a piece of cheese as well that was shared before. So please do share your stuff. Wow. Okay, now this is not geometry. No, it's challenge. Oh, there's challenges already. Awesome. I think this is Blender Sushi, right? You got made the cheese donuts. Are the donuts already? The geometry nodes. Anyways, last but not least, I mentioned OpenColorIO, upgrade to 2.0, 2.0, and nothing else. I think that it's all for me. I'm just curious about a branch that got an add-on an add-on update, which is the XR Actions branch. VR at default action set. This is in a branch. Again, it's not happening in the master. It's not available in master. It's just a branch, but I'm just curious. Anybody of you here in the community have tried it already? I haven't, but I'm looking forward. I'm kind of excited about it. And that is all. Okay. Time to answer some questions. I already asked you enough questions for today. Let's close some tabs to make my RAM happy and go to Blender.community, which we are working on, by the way. It's getting still far from being able to show you a working Blender community website. I already showed it last week, but for example, this is a picture from well, for those that are not aware, we are working with the new version of Blender.community, version number 4, after 6 years of development. It's version 4 allows you to drag and drop attachments and have them anywhere in the text in your description, and it will show up here in the sidebar. So if you're not familiar with this, well, if when you're making a new post here, or when you edit a post, it's yeah, for adding pictures you have to add them via a Imgur or something else, some other editor, but in this case this is just awesome. This is Markdown supported already, that was added last week, and now attachments, categories, drop files. This is great. It's I mean it is great already, but it's gonna make things a lot better, and the right click select editing is gonna be nicer. It's all gonna be nicer. All right, community notes. Community notes. All right, I think, is this the site where that's karma thing? Yeah, well, karma is a concept that is in a lot of websites, like in Reddit, and in right click select we use it for knowing, like, if a user posts quality content, then their karma goes up. Like in this case, Momotron has 2560 of karma, and if you post things that are not so great, you get downvoted and your karma goes down. The main problem we have at the moment is that we have some spam issues. People are spamming, well, bots are spamming, and we use the karma, so if you have low karma or negative karma, you cannot post anymore. However, the bots now are getting smarter and they're upvoting each other. It's so funny and depressing. We're gonna fix it. The problem is that if you post something in right click select an idea, and maybe the idea is just not so great, but that doesn't, and your karma goes down and you can't post anymore, but it shouldn't be connected, right? If you post an idea and it's just not great, shouldn't not let you post anymore. So yeah, we're working on it. Karma and votes for proposals are going to be two different things, don't worry. Karma should be based on, like, if you get reports, if people report you as spam and you get a lot of spam, well, okay, then yes. Let's begin. So, all right. First question. Let me have some mate. What app is he using here? What app? What do you mean? What app? Blender community is not an well. Is it an app? Is a website an app? It's a place. It's a place we built with Francesco. Francesco and I built this website from scratch. It's not Reddit. We got inspired by Reddit, but we made it. We even installed Reddit once. Reddit is open source, or at least it was when we tried it. And I haven't checked lately, but we thought of using it for Blender community, but it was just too much. What Linux distro do you use? I'm using currently Pop OS 2.10. Pop OS. This one. It doesn't look like this. I have another theme. If you're interested in which theme it is, it's called Juno Mirage, and then the cursor is from macOS Big Sur, because that's what poor people do when they want to have some Mac in their lives, and the icons are from 9icon. All right, let's continue. What will be your top 5 features for Blender 3.0? Top 5 features. Collection nodes, geometry nodes. Well, collection nodes is to be defined. I don't know if it's gonna be finished, but geometry nodes, maybe collection nodes, asset browser. 5 features. Post library, yes, the post library should be there by then, hopefully. The post library, which is an add-on, should use the asset library. But I think the everything that comes with the asset browser so far, and I'm blanking on what else it's there. And the whole Blender, the whole workflow, I think it should be better. It will be better, of course, but should be count as one thing. A more user-friendly Blender. Oh, and overrides. Yeah, the override system. I forgot. Yes, I'm checking out here the chat, by the way, people. All right, Pipeliner's question is: Hi Pablo, nice to see that there are 2 technical artists added to the compositor module. This is one of my highlights today. Yes, it is. It is. It's great to have technical. Well, it's part of Blender's philosophy, you know, makes artists with developers. Here. Hola Pablo, says Blender Defender. I just wanted to mention that I recently released another add-on called Blender Project Manager. It can be found on GitHub for free or for donation. It allows you to set up folder structure and manage or keep track, arrange Blender projects. Why don't you just make it in Blender? We need something like this that is not an add-on, but it's an actual Blender thing. I mean, it's great that you do it, but Blender needs, and it's part of the roadmap to have a project, the concept of a project, but it has to be implemented, you know, properly, like internally. Like, what is a project? Is it bigger than a scene? Is it something else? Do you need to have a project? But yeah, awesome. Great. Next, Sam says, hey Pablo, I think I asked a while ago when geometry nodes were more in the infant stages, but now development is ramping up. I was wondering if there had been any talks about implementing a C-based API to give users the opportunity to customize the creation of attributes, adding functionality, or implementing custom new nodes, similar to, say, the VX language in Houdini. Hello, Dini. From following geometry nodes dev talk, I've seen a lot of interest in a usable C-based API compared to Python due to the speed. really excited about the future of everything Nodes. Massive congrats to the team. I think it's in such early stages that it's not a priority at the moment. Blender itself needs to have something, but it's more generic before even thinking about using or making a C-based API. I think it should be kept in mind personally, but it shouldn't be the target at the moment because so many areas in Blender are going to use nodes from collections, physics, hair nodes, rigging nodes, that first having the basics and more generic, it should be a focus. Brave76 asks, hello Pablo, I love the show every week. Thank you. It keeps me engaged with all the new features, tips and techniques on how to get the most of this amazing software. Having icing using Blender since 2.8, so not that long ago. Well, it's 2.5 years, you know. The alpha was in 2018. I learned 3D modeling in Softimage 3D. Rip in peace, Softimage. When the software was upgraded to Softimage XSI, introduced the concept of ICE system, which were nodes that were used to control different effects and geometry throughout the software. I don't know how familiar you are with Softimage ICE, but do you think it's a fair comparison to the Everything Nodes project in Blender? I've been away from 3D software for many years, but Blender has brought that joy back. Thanks again. Keep up the amazing work. I think when access, I'm not completely familiar, to be honest with it. I looked at other maybe more modern, you know, XSI. I think when that was introduced in XSI, it was like mind-blowing for the entire industry. But then since then, you know, have Bifrost, so you have also the fall off that Cinema 4D uses. But so I can't compare it. Maybe someone that with the experience can compare it. I cannot personally, but I think we can all be very excited about the Everything Nodes project in Blender, because it's what Geometry Nodes is just the beginning, and we have just crazy plans for dealing with objects, with collection nodes, or dealing with physics, or dealing with hair, dealing with solvers, being able to write your own solvers. Or this is just the one. Like next week, we're gonna see already some interaction between geometry nodes and shading nodes, and it's just amazing. That is just, again, the tip of the iceberg. Let's continue. But yeah, I'm not completely familiar. However, if there are any, well, the chances that any developer from XSI, Softimage XSI ICE system, that looks like a system that was made with a lot of love. So if anybody out there knows a person involved with that project, tell them to check out Blender. You know, maybe some people with that passion will find a new home in Blender. Atomic Samurai, awesome nickname. Hi Pablo, I hope all is well. It is. Is there a way to select the hierarchy of several selected objects in the current version? Yes. No, it's only for the active object, not for, because in Blender you have the concept of selected and active. So the hierarchy, you mean. So for example, if I have the I have two cubes, and I have this camera connected to this cube, and then this lamp connected to this cube. If I select the cube and this other cube, and then I do Shift G hierarchy or immediate children, yeah, it only selects for the active, not the selected. Yeah. The outliner, maybe like delete select hierarchy, it selects this. And then if I do both, select hierarchy, no, it still does only the active. No, sorry. It should go to, wow, it's already 6 past 5. 6. Let's do 3 more questions because I'm running out of time, space in my head and time. I'm going to I go to the bottom, so I read the ones that were asked before, just to be fair with everybody that left the questions. Sorry, the ones I don't get time to answer. Helgo, hi Pablo. I hope the Amsterdam ice and snow fever didn't get to you. No fever yet. Don't wanna claim victory here, but no. But the ice was amazing. It's still snow from last week in Amsterdam. With all the volume features showing up lately, modifiers, geometry nodes, new volume object type, I was wondering if you knew a way to use a volume object as a texture, just like a 2D image, but volumetric. Yeah, right? If you use the 3D procedural texture and you use 3D, should map, right? Should map 3. I don't have like off the top of my head, as I can't remember, but I think it's I think it should work. You know that textures now have 1, 2, 3D options. It should map 1 to 1. Yes, it does. I've used it for fog. Yes, so people does. Wait, Pablo lives in NL. Yeah, Blender is in NL. I'm still surprised that people, like Dutch people, Blender users from the Netherlands are still finding out that Blender is Dutch. Like it was born in the south of the Netherlands. Now it's in Amsterdam. Daniela Palm, now it seems forever. Daniela Palm, hi Pablo, almost time for 2.92. It's crazy, I know. Should be working on the release notes page. I was wondering, do you know if anything is happening with this patch? Also, I saw on the Blender developer that you had suggested in a post having shorter attribute names for geometry nodes, stuff like that. What was the team's opinion on that? Personally, I like it short, but for people new to this, it doesn't really help them to know what it is. Yeah, you know, in the Big H program, they use P, for example, for position, and that's it. And you have to know. It's one of the things that you have to know, that P is for position, and it makes it easier when you write long formulas. But yeah, it's not so great for people learning. You know, you still have to know that it's position and P. The Blender way, it was decided that it will be with the full word position, and I was suggesting to have both. To have, if you write P, capital P, then will mean position, but then you have to use more private names, and also what happens when you mix them, and yeah, it's opening a can of worms, so maybe not. We're keeping the long names. And the patch that you shared, screen operators. Oh, I wish we can get this in. I think I left a question last time, right? Quickly. Where was it? Later, July. Hasn't been updated. Gotta check. But yeah, I hope it moves on. Basically, it's a screen operator. Yeah, that happened. Harley took into some of the tasks in here, like a new button to a new option to close a editor. That was added as a separate patch. It should be added as a separate patch, and then this should come in. But we still don't know which shortcuts to use. Like, I think it should be Alt, but yeah. Shortcut to use to resize the windows. Okay, the last question, it's by Sam. Several questions this week. I'm thinking of putting together a proposal for some improvements of the group nodes UI and customization options, but with geometry nodes developing ramping up, will the design of nodes as a whole be likely to change anytime soon, making such a proposal obsolete? Well, you know, I have some ideas in mind, but more like aesthetic, and also the way to have like flags in nodes. But the more ideas we have, the better. It's all under development. So if you want to come up with some proposals, please do. It's super nice to, or maybe just do a wireframe first, you know, like a basic yeah, a wireframe, which means not a Blender 3D wireframe, but like a black and white, no high fidelity, no details, just super basic square with a bunch of buttons to tell what you want to show, but without distracting the user, the design. All right, that is all for this week. Oh, there's a nice question, something about mentioning the snow. Okay, let's see if I can answer this. Stack for fixing and undo. Paint setting was marked as resolved, even though it remains an issue in the latest releases. What do you mean? This was closed as resolved. If there is another issue, please report report it. And Bastien asked people to stop adding the reports and instead create a new task. Yes, please. When you find these issues, always make a new task. Even if the other one is closed, it's better to just make a new task. It's no problem to have a million tasks. It's a whole new issue, and sometimes when you have an old bug like this one that so many people are involved, you know, every time you answer here, you are mentioning all 52 people, and everybody that added everybody that is here is getting a notification and is mentioning here. So this is like, it's better to start with a new issue. Also because the code in Blender changed so much since this was posted in 2019. Like, yeah, it's just make a new one. All right, time to call it a day. It's been a super exciting episode of Blender today. We've seen so much in all the areas. We cover pretty much everything, so I'm happy we made it to the end. I hope you like it. I hope you get to see it again. If you missed something, sorry for the questions I didn't get to answer, but we're gonna do this again next week. So why don't we see each other? We call it a day. Go have fun. Download Blender 2.92 is coming out next week. So if you can, please download the beta. Test all your old files with it. If you find any issues, please report them, because if you don't do that and next week you download the 2.92 final release and you find that your files don't open or crash, and then you report the bug, and then the developers have to say, hey, this was a big issue and we have to release 2.92.1, and it slows down the entire Blender development. So the more you report issues before the actual release happens, the better. Please download the beta. I know it's boring because it doesn't have all the new things that 2.93 has, but it's for the better. That being said, in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. It's been another amazing week. Thank you for making until the end. Let me know in the comments below what you think about the stuff that I asked today, about attributes, about the interaction and all of that. It's been great. Next week, same place, same time, Blender Today.